Today I'm going to show you how to crochet a sachet scarf. So the first thing you want to do is you want to look at your yarn and you want to see how many yards you have. This ball is 30 yards. The blue one that I'm going to be using today is only 20 yards. And in my experience, that's not enough to make a scarf that's a good length for an adult. If you're making one for a child, 20 yards will probably be fine. But in this tutorial, I'll also show you how to join two balls of this yarn so that if you need to make a longer scarf, you can. So just when you're shopping for this yarn, or if you've already bought it, just go ahead and check your yardage and make sure that you're going to have enough to complete your project. So just make sure you check your yardage before you start your project. Make sure that you've bought enough of your dye lot so that you can complete your project. Okay, let's get started. When you first get your yarn off the ball, it's going to come bunched up like this, and what you're going to need to do to work with it is you're going to need to open it up and spread it out. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working into these top holes, just these little holes right here. So you'll just need to keep spreading it out so that you can see and work through these. So to start this project, I like to start by tying my yarn in a knot, just so that it's extra secure. And then once you've done that, you zoom in so you can see. You're going to find the first hole, and remember, we're just going to be working on this top track. You're going to find the first hole and you're going to put your hook in. I should also mention that it doesn't really matter what size hook you're using, just as it's a comfortable size for you. I like to use bigger hooks for this project just because it's easier to pull through these loops when you have a bigger hook. The hook size isn't going to affect the gauge on this project, so again, it doesn't matter what size hook you're using. So once you've got your hook inserted into this first hole, you're going to look for the next complete square and you're going to skip it. And this is the one we're going to put on our hook. So we're just going to wrap it over, and then we're going to pull through just like we're doing a normal chain, and that's one. So there's our first chain. We're going to look for our next usable hole, which is right here. We're going to skip it and go to the second one, and we're going to pull through the loop that's on our hook, and that's two. And we're going to do the same thing. Next square, skip it. Whoops. And that's three. Find our next square, skip it, that's four. And five. And for most projects, I found that 5 is a good width. You can just determine this as you go. Once your scarf begins to pick up some bulk, you'll be able to tell if you want it to be a little fluffier or if you like it the way that it is. For this particular yarn, I'm actually going to go with 7. So if you want to go with 5, I found that that's a pretty good width for most. This yarn's just thinner than the other sachet that I worked with, so I'm going to go with 7. So once you have your foundation chain, you're going to make one final chain. That's going to be our turning chain, just like any other crochet project. Okay, and then we're going to take our strip and we're just going to flip it over. Okay, now this is the hardest part of the project, is right here, is working into this foundation chain. So with a normal project of crochet, you can really easily see the top of your stitch. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but our V's are really hard to see in this first chain. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to just judge by where these gathers are. So we know that we've got 7 chains. So you're going to find your first stitch to the best of your ability. Looks like. So we've 1, See how there's a big gap here? 1, 2, 3, and you might have to pull on your project a bit to find it. 4, 5, 6, and 7. So once you've found your stitches, we're going to work into them, and we're just going to do single crochet throughout this entire project. So here we go. Insert your hook into the first stitch, and then just like we did before, find your next workable square and skip it. And this is going to make your scarf, the gaps between your rows, big enough for you to work into. If you skip 2, it's going to make the gaps even bigger. I don't think it makes a very good looking scarf, but I mean, once you have the hang of this, feel free to experiment and see what you like and what you don't like. So we're going to yarn over, pull through, and then once again look for your next complete square, skip it, yarn over, and then pull through both. And then we have to find our next stitch here through this mess. So right here, this will be our second stitch. So just insert your hook there, find your next workable, skip it, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're just going to continue that across your first row. I'll do one more really slow to make sure you have the hang of it. Hopefully you guys are seeing this okay. It's hard to watch the camera and my fingers at the same time. So insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through. And then as you continue doing these scarves, you'll get faster at it, you'll get better, and you'll become accustomed to just automatically skipping to that next square that's workable. And this foundation row really is the hardest part of the scarf, to find all the stitches you're working into. And the nice thing about sachet yarn is these scarves are very forgiving. So if you miss a stitch on a row, or your stitches aren't very clean or clear, don't stress about it. This project is so forgiving that you will hardly be able to tell, unless you have 3 or 4 rows where you're consecutively missing stitches. You won't even be able to tell, and it's a really easy fix when you do miss a stitch, and I'll show you how to fix that. I think that's my row. That doesn't seem right. Hang on. In fact, I think I'm going to do 2 more, and we will see what happens. Like I said, super forgiving. Don't panic if you feel like you've messed up. This project is really good for beginners, because like I said, it's hard to mess it up. Alright, once you've gotten back to your knot, you're done with your foundation row, and it should get a little easier from here on out. So once you've finished your foundation row, chain 1 to turn, and off we go the other way. Now with this row, it's much easier to see where our stitches are. Even in this dark yarn, you can see here's my V of my first stitch, here's another V, here's another V, and that's what we're going to be working into. So you'll see this first one that's connected to my loop, or that's on my hook. We're never going to work into that one. We're just going to skip it, because it's too awkward to try and work into there. Which is why we always need a turning chain at the end. So we're going to go to our next stitch, and it's really easy to accidentally skip a stitch with this, so I like to count every row that I do, or every stitch that I do. So you're just going to insert into that first V, and then just the same as we've been doing before, look for your next workable square, skip over it, and yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So as you go, find your next V right here, and once you know what you're looking for, this project becomes a lot easier. And what I like to do to make sure that I have the right V is I like to tug up on it. Let me see if I can make this clearer for you to see. So I like to turn and pull, and if this little thing slides right here, then I know I've got the right thing. So insert there, yarn over, pull through, and you're just going to continue throughout your row. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So now I will show you what to do if you've gotten to the edge of this row and found that you somehow missed a stitch. So if you found that you only had 6 if you're doing 7 along with me, or 4 if you're doing 5, you're going to just finish your row, chain 1. When you get to the next row, all you have to do to make up that other stitch is do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So just a single crochet increase. So I have 1, and it's usually when I get to the end of the row when I discover that I've missed one. So say I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get to the end of this row and I only have 6. So at the end here I'll just do 2 in the same, and then once you turn and start going back, you'll have the right number again. And like I said, this project is really forgiving. With how ruffly this scarf gets, you really can't tell when you've missed a stitch or anything like that. I have found that sometimes the wider you go, so the more stitches across you have, the flatter the scarf lays. So instead of being round and fluffy like this, it's going to be a flatter, like a more traditional scarf. So if you like that look, if you want to experiment with that, go for it. So just be wary on how wide across you're making the scarf. Also, another problem you might run into is it might start bunching really weirdly, and what I found is you just need to unwind your entire scarf. So you just hold it up by the hook and then just let the scarf unwind itself. Also, as you go, this will start to get twisted, so you may have to take your ball and just rotate it to get your yarn in a workable position again. So that's it for this section of the tutorial. I will come back when I finish the end of this ball and show you how to join 2 together. Alright, now that I've gotten to the end of my skein of yarn, I'm going to show you how to join 2 balls of yarn together. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your patterns are going the same way. So just match up where your colors stop. Make sure that they pick up in the same place so you don't have any weirdness going on. Also, this technique really comes in handy when you get a ball of yarn that has something like this, which is what I just found on mine, which, if you can see that, it's just serged, not even serged together, just kind of crappily sewn together. So I'm actually going to just cut these two pieces and use this joining technique to join them and hopefully not have a big huge bulge in the middle of my work. So here we go. Okay, once you have your ends lined up, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to leave a little bit of overlap. And if you're not a perfectionist like me, feel free to just join and go. And I'm just going to continue working like this is one piece. So I'll just insert my hook into my next stitch and make sure these are lined up the way I want them. And you could use a safety pin if you want to keep these together a little bit better. I'm just lazy. And then you're just going to continue working like you would if you had a single piece of yarn. So this is my next hole right here. So I'm going to put this first hole in this second piece just right on top. So now when I grab my next stitch to work, I'm grabbing both pieces of yarn. And so this will make this next row a little bit thicker, but I think this is going to be the best option for if you do end up using the ball of yarn that's only 20 yards instead of 30 yards, so that you can get that length that you need. So I'm going to yarn over with both pieces and then pull them through as if they were one strand. And then again, yarn over. Whoops, grabbed the wrong one. Yarn over with both pieces, making sure I'm in the right square, and then pull through. I'm going to keep doing this until I've run out of yarn, or I could stop and cut it when I felt like I've covered enough that I don't think it's gonna fray or fall apart or come undone. So I'll probably keep going until this yarn runs out that I started with, just for a little extra security. So yarn over with both pieces. I hope you guys can see this clearly enough. Pull through one, yarn over with both pieces, and pull through two. Okay, I think this will do it after I finish this stitch. Oops. As you can see, I'm just about out of this yarn. So pull through, yarn over, and that's the last of it. So there we go. Oops. And so now I'll just, that worked out really nicely to be the end of my row. Chain one, turn my work, and keep going with my new ball of yarn as if nothing changed. And that's how you join 2 balls of sachet crochet. Okay, I'm going to show you how to finish it on a different piece, just because I already have it mostly done. So, let me get this so you can see it. You want to make sure you've left enough yarn to finish. If you haven't, you can always undo a row and then keep going. So I've done my chain one right here. So I'm just going to put my hook in here, finish my last row, just like we've been doing the entire time. And for this scarf, I am actually doing 5. Whereas with the blue scarf, I'm only doing, or I'm doing 7 instead of 5. But for this one, I actually did do 5. So that's 4. This makes 5. So pull through. Yarn over, pull through. And then instead of our final chain one like we normally do, what we're going to do is we're going to take the whole chunk of yarn, put it over our hook, and pull it through this final loop that's on my hook. So it's kind of tricky, but hopefully you haven't been crocheting so tight that you can't get it in there. So just pull it through that last final loop. Pull it all the way through. And then for additional security, I like to tie it in a knot, just like we did at the beginning, just so I know that it's not just gonna accidentally come undone. And that way you can cut it as close as you need to. And then I usually cut it about here, just because then once you fluff your scarf, and you do that just by pulling down on it, then if you cut it here or so, then when the scarf lays flat, you're not going to see the end. And then that's how you finish it. There you go.